So we're here with Paul Papadimitriou, the coolest last name here. Okay, so Paul, tell us a little bit about what you do in general and why it relates to e-commerce and the future, which are two obvious prevailing themes here at e-nnovation.
So basically what I do is simply looking at the impact of digital in businesses, and for that I use the angle of generations, of, for instance, millennials. What happens, how do they use technology? I believe there's a new generation that has new technologies, that creates new behaviors, which entices new values. And these are customers, basically. So in that sense, it impacts businesses not only because the customers will be different, the employees will be different, and the marketplaces, whichever marketplace it is, will be different. So this is my angle.
Okay, so how does that relate to e-commerce specifically? Have you worked with any e-commerce companies before?
Yes, I have. It's simply that, it's in terms of behavior. I mean, I know a lot of people focus on the behavior, like we think about mobile phones, and people think about, okay, they have a mobile phone, we have to be mobile ready, and we have to have e-commerce and mobile, which is fine. I mean, but for me, it's in evidence now. It's not even a debate anymore, right? For me, what interests me more is the behavior. What people are actually doing with their phones, but with information in general, in terms of e-commerce, how are they purchasing? Why do they decide to purchase something? Why do they decide to purchase at that moment? And why do they choose that provider over another? This is more into the behavior, psychology of customers.
Okay, and do you have a background in behavioral psychology studies?
I do research. No, I do research. No, I don't. No, my background is all over the place. Which is why, because I try to connect all the dots between technology, business, behavior. I use a lot of studies, of surveys I'm doing with clients. We use part of this, then we look at also in terms of generations, what the people are doing in various countries, various cultures, because culture still impact how we use. I think there's an unifying trend where more and more people are closer, this newer generation are closer now than the same generation of us 20 years ago. We're close, but they are closer because they use a similar type of technology and still have their culture. So just trying to map this in order to actually give advice and insights to businesses and how they should react. One of the things, for instance, in terms of marketplaces, is that in terms of the products you sell, is the people are the newer generation are less defined by what they buy, they're defined by experiences. If you think about a few years,
less defined by what they buy,
what they own. It was you want a house, you want a car, and you want a big TV. To make very, very stupid and generic examples.
Sure, but
now people want more access to experiences. It's more the experience of the actual TV, more the experience of the actual car. You've seen all these sharing economy trend that starts, of course, most of in the US, when you can just, instead of buying a car, you can just use a car for an hour. Whether you rent it, when you have marketplaces that allow you have a car, I don't. You don't use it all the time, and I'm going to say, you're going to say, sorry, I'm going to allow other people to use a car, and I can use 1 hour your car. So, meaning, imagine the impact for the car industry. Suddenly they cannot sell as many cars because people say, you know what, I'm just going to share my car. And it also impacts the way the choice of products, because you want a product that is robust, that you can share, that you can resell. So it
can be changed in its format.
And that's the sustainability. So for me, there's 4 keywords for the generation. Yes. Of course, social.
And which generation are we talking about?
Okay,
exactly.
so
who's your target generation?
For me,
for mobile tech.
There are many generations. There are usual labels, Gen Y, there was Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and suddenly the guy who invented Gen X didn't think that we're going to run out of letters. So basically, millennials are, the Gen Y, so depending on the definition is around mid-80s to mid-90s, and then you have the following, which, it's these both. But for me, they are sometimes a bit too strict, because there are people that have behaviors that are a little bit, like early adopters. They will already use a lot of mobile technology, for instance, but they're older. At the same time, some other people might be a bit slower to adopt new technology. But in general, it's the generation that it was born after 1980, to make it very simple, and even more so, because that's the one actually really interested about, the generation that is born around, let's say 95 to 2005. Those for those, the smartphone will be the first thing they see. The earlier was still the computer, the desktop computer, and the access to the internet, which was slow. And now it's the always-on smartphone. They're having a powerful. I mean, think about how a phone in your pocket now is more powerful than a computer 3 years ago. And everybody will have that. There will be 2 billion smartphones maybe in the world in the next 2 years. But 1 billion of them will be the only device that these people will have ever known. There's no like legacy of what it was. So and they can do a lot of things. And imagine the impact on e-commerce.
Right.
You know, the behaviors will be very different. How you purchase, when you purchase, the impulse behind purchasing, how you connect with these people. So yeah.
Okay. You were going back to, because I interrupted you to talk about the demographics, but so to bring it back, you were saying there's a few things that you look at.
4 keywords that I really like. I really like is like, I call that generation seamless, because again, always on, always with her, always connected. So 4 S's, social, because I think newer generation are defined by tribes. So we're defined by the country we were born in. I mean, like you, I was to some extent, because some of us are outliers. We're living in different countries with different parents. But more and more, you're defined by tribe. Imagine the very simple example I always use is like a kid that was bullied because he was a bit had different opinions or different likes 30 years ago was really alone. Nowadays you can find other people that either validate or at least a community that is actually very similar to his. So, so it doesn't matter where he's still alone at school. It still matters to an extent, of course, but you can find other people. So the definition of tribes is very different from what it used to be. So there's social. There's seamless. Okay. Then there's sustainable, as you can the values of buying stuff that you can actually reuse. Also, there's I'll show that in my presentation. There's word clouds that have been made about what is the purpose of a business. And if you look at the older generation, you'll see people profit. You'll see
very business-minded kind of.
But because for them, it's because
that's what that was.
Yes, but also because it was work was a mean to have a hobby. Work was a mean to have a good life, right? Whereas the newer generation, work is part of the good life.
Of everything.
So the business itself has to have a purpose. Hence, again, the products you buy have to have a purpose, have to have meaning, being sustainable. So sustainable, social, seamless, and then I mean. The other part that is really interesting is how, and it's all defined by all these trends I've just said, is that how people, their tribes, they can be who they want, and then they can also be where they want. They don't have to think about, I live here, I can move easily, I can find people that are like-minded elsewhere, I can see that opportunities exist, and I have a very powerful computer in my pocket that allows me to say, why not? Why not try something that other people
are getting into,
or other generations sometimes just didn't have the opportunity to see that something existed. If you think, I should try it. This is all, of course, the whole trend of startups. Of young people say, why not? Let's try something.
Is that the last S? Startup? What's the last S?
No, it's a social, seamless. What did I say now? Social,
seamless, sustainability,
sustainable, and startups. I don't. Yes.
Startups, maybe.
Yes, it's the impression of having all the opportunities that are open in front of you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thank you very much for having
thank you very much.
Spreading your knowledge with us. Okay. Paul Papadimitriou.
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 You got it. Thank you.